All right, welcome to round number 3. We are on the draw here, and we have another hand of 2 lands, 3 drops, and companies. Blind, I just can't keep this. It's just too slow, and our opponent might just steamroll us off, something like that. So this Azusa is tempting to keep, but I think we have to bottom it here. We just don't have any way to abuse it until we company, in which case we may have a way to abuse it, but aren't even guaranteed. On top of that, if our Noble Hierarch dies, we are absolutely going to be hurting for lands. So, especially not even being able to cast this voice. Drew and Azusa anyway. Unfortunately, I'm going to grab this here. My left fiddle may matter against Breeding Pool. It's probably a pseudo mirror. Maybe some Nightfall, something of the sort. No, okay. Sakura Tribe Elder. So, some kind of Scapeshift action, I guess. Either Rug or Bring to Light Scapeshift. I'm going to cast Courser here to make it most likely that I get to cast my company next turn. If I don't get to cast my company, maybe I can generate some value off of Azusa. I guess that's impossible. Unless there's like a come into play tapped land on top, which I just don't have. So yeah, I guess that's not happening. Either I'm not going to generate any value off of this, and I'm not going to be able to cast company. But if I can't do that, then I guess next turn we're just on Voice Resurgence. This matchup also sounds pretty bad. Like I said, the combo matchups can be a bit of a concern. Path on top, not so good. So it looks like I'm just leading on Voice here. Opponent's going to peer in response. Yeah, I just don't have a good way to interact with my opponent, and our beatdown is not particularly expedient. So this is going to be tough, but perhaps a good exercise for our Unified Wills to see if they can actually do anything. But I've really enjoyed playing this deck over the past week or so on stream. But this is one of the weaknesses of the deck. Fair matchups feel great, but any hint of an unfair matchup, and you're struggling to find cards that are actually relevant. Snap Peer on their own turn, sure. I mean, that's good for us. Maybe they won't hit their land drop this turn. Maybe they're digging for a Scapeshift they don't yet have. Never mind, that's what they got last time. Should probably have looked at that already, but hey, better late than never. Don't know why we didn't. I guess I got to talking about something else. Serum Visions? Great, yeah. All right, well, they do hit their land drop this turn, unfortunately. They don't shock Serum Visions, which is interesting since they're not really under a lot of pressure, but definitely do not want to path my opponent's Snapcaster. Unfortunately, I see another company on top. So I also don't really want to trade this. I'm already dead to Scapeshift anyway. Looks like my opponent's just on Rug Shift, of course, by the way. They're not really interested in doing anything Bring to Light. They may still have like a 4th source and just be like a really light Bring to Light splash, but like a white source or a black source, and then just not really be using it for anything else. But that would be a little bit of surprise at this point. It just looks like they're Rug Shift. So I'm going to cast this Azusa to hopefully generate a lot of value next turn if there's a land on top. That way I don't have to decide between the company and the Azusa. I just get to do it all. All right, so this is us being dead. Opponent just goes Farseek Scapeshift, and we're dead. And this is exactly what I'm talking about, right? Like what could we have really done this game? Path my opponent's Snapcaster, give them a land. I mean, we just didn't really have a lot of ways to interact with our opponent. Even if we had drawn a Ghost Quarter, that doesn't really matter. My opponent likely would have had sufficient enough basics to have that be the case. So, you know, if it was Tech Edge, that's a little bit of a different story. We could like repeatedly try and Tech Edge them. That's certainly something that we can do. Obviously, our opponent has found 6 mountains and a Valakut, which is 18. Certainly sufficient to kill us at 17. It would have been nice to remain at 19 or above if we had known what we were playing against, but of course we didn't. And I was light on lands and wanted to ensure that I was going to be able to cast this voice even if my Noble Hierarch died. and I drew like a basic forest, for example, or breeding pool. But anyway, we're going to bring in our unified wills, obviously, and our mind sensor. We could bring in the bog. I mean, they have a snapcaster, so it's probably worth having access to. If we ever have a night out, we could try and get them. Engineered explosive doesn't do anything. Sigarda is like fine, but very slow. Opponent's gonna have stuff like anger, but Whisperwood doesn't really help against anger. So, I mean, it feels like I want this Sigarda, I guess. But I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to play, like if I'm trying to lean on these unified wills, am I ever really going to be able to pay 5 mana and just slam a threat? I guess after I've countered what we believe to be their last Scapeshift or something, but I guess we'll start here and potentially put in this Sigarda, but I don't really see any of the rest of these being particularly useful. So this matchup's weird, where I want my grindy elements because my opponent's a reasonably good control deck with just a way to kill us instantly. So they also have anger, which is going to make things like my dorks a lot worse. They have a pretty easy time killing Azusa as a bolt deck, so we'll probably board out at least these. But Tireless Striker's in an interesting spot, right? Where like I basically have to have it because they're a good control deck, but maybe I don't actually have time because I'm worried about them combo killing me. Fortunately, Tireless Striker is also a good beatdown card, and also not actually bad with trying to hold up mana, since our opponent can only really do the things we're scared of at at sorcery speed. Kitchen Finks doesn't really seem relevant here, so I think we could probably board on those. Scavenging Ooze is good against my opponent's Snapcasters. Voice is good against my opponent's Remands, and other ways they may want to interact on our turn, so I like those. So I think it's going to be these 7 for these 7. Boarding out on dorks and adding a 5-drop kind of feels bad, but we are putting up a land at least, kind of like what we did last time. So we'll jam it like this. All right, we would like to be on the play, please. All right. This is exactly what we would fear when we're siding in Unified Wills. A 0 creature double Unified Will hand. I can't keep that, unfortunately. And I left the paths in again instead of shaving on them. Again, I'm scared my opponent might board in some mid-rangey threats, but why am I not shaving on those paths, brain? That's atrocious. Obviously, we want to shave on those, at least down to 2, if not to 0, and probably to 0. Again, my opponent might put in like Baloths or Thragtusks or whatever other mid-range threat they want. But as a rug, they probably don't have anything more exciting than Baloths or Thragtusks, so maybe 1, maybe 2, but 4, absolutely not. So again, that's a huge misplay as far as sideboarding is concerned. I do not know why I left it that way, so my apologies. We will fix that if and when there is a game 3. Alright, so no real reason not to just slam a voice here. Using my fetch lands early is a little worse for my Courser, but obviously very important for my Knight of the Reliquary, so I'm happy to use both of those as early as possible to ensure that my Knight is at the very least a 4/4 when I try to resolve it. That way it cannot die to Lightning Bolt and can get its beatdown going. Also have the ability to produce a bog if we care about that. So hopefully our opponent doesn't have like another ramp spell here. If they're trying to play like a slower control game, like I feel like we can potentially win those games, but if they're just like Search for Tomorrow and Farseek, we might be in a lot of trouble. They don't. They just Peer Through Depths, which is probably good for me here. Cryptic Command, yeah, I'm not super worried about that one with our voice, so that's good. Now we get to resolve our Knight of the Reliquary and try to start beating down with that. So that's good. We'll jam with our voice for a couple points here, of course. Opponent resolves their search, likely getting a basic island, especially with a cryptic in their hand. They can potentially have cryptic available to them this turn, but again, with the voice, that's not a huge concern, unless they just want to like cycle cryptics up until the point where they're casting Scapeshift to kill us, which is possible. Opponent does shock here, so they definitely want to use all their mana. They just bounce our knight. Not unreasonable. Alright, so we found a Unified Will, but I did not make the effort to produce the blue yet. I just need to go for knight again. Unfortunately, I can't knight voice unless I Ghost Quarter myself, which may be okay. Oh no, I can't do it anyway. What am I saying? I don't have enough mana. I only have 4 mana. Like thinking, what am I thinking? This is a dork or something? I don't understand. Either way, I'm one spelling here is the bottom line. Obviously, I could try to voice plus Unified Will if I had a blue source, but we can't, so we just want to set up for that. I guess leaving up Ghost Quarter is a lot better than leaving up Gavany Township, so we'll play this first. And again, jam for 2. So far, our opponent pretty good at stifling our beatdown plan just by casting 1 cryptic. So we're struggling a bit here. Hopefully we untap with this knight. If we untap with this knight, I'll feel a lot better about our prospects in this game now that we've drawn a Unified Will, but it's still not very hard for our opponent to win a counter war if they're prepared. That said, our opponent will probably not have a lot of their cheaper counter spells in post board against us. Leaving in cryptics makes sense since it's still pretty versatile, but I bet they took out things like remands. So again, if we untap with this knight, can produce a blue source, feel pretty good about our prospects here. Feel like we can definitely do it, unless our opponent just has multiple Scapeshifts that we can't deal with, which is certainly a possibility. If I draw a fetch land or breeding pool, or see one on top with my Courser that I'm likely to cast, then I will attack with my Knight of the Reliquary, putting my opponent on a 2-turn clock instead, which would be excellent. But we will see. We will see what happens. Farseek for a breeding pool, sure. Starting to feel like our knight's going to untap, so that's good. Serum Visions, yeah. We will see how they scry with that. Bottom and top. Sure. Play a breeding pool for turn. Unsure, untapped, or tapped at this point, it would seem. Not sure what that's supposed to indicate to me. Maybe they have something like a Peer Through Depths they could cast now. Maybe they have like a remand still, and they're like, well, maybe I should just, maybe it's worth the 2 life to hold it up. With my knight, I think that's not really a concern, but we'll go ahead and slam this Courser first. I can't play around remand anyway, since I can only Unified Will once. So, yeah, not a land on top. So I guess we are going to activate Knight on our own turn, grabbing fetch land to at least hide our Unified Will a little bit. We still have the ability to attack for lethal next turn, fortunately. Even with Ghost Quartering myself, this was not lethal. Actually, if I had Ghost Quartered myself twice, I didn't count from drawing the Ghost Quarter. I'm not sure if it's worth going for that, because it feels like my opponent has certainly left something up. But then they give us a voice token, but then they can just kill us next turn. Yeah, they had a snap, in fact. They're just going for the kill next turn. And trading here. So yeah, I guess I'm glad I didn't go for the double Ghost Quarter line, but I certainly should have talked about it instead of attacking first and then talking about it. But like I said, I think yeah, I think double Ghost Quarter line is not correct here. If there was a way to double Ghost Quarter and have Unified Will, then we could have won this turn. Alright, so let's... I also could have Unified Will that snap, obviously, but that's not worth it. So we'll just get a Misty here. Ramunap still on top. And I guess I'll show them to try and hit a land on top. They probably won't think twice about it. 18, and we can still Ghost Quarter ourselves for additional life if it resolves this way, which is nice. Although, again, we were at 19, so. But we wouldn't have been once we fetched Shocked. So actually, yeah, this is definitely... No, we would have been able to do that regardless. Doesn't matter. Either way. Alright, so we certainly have lethal this turn. I'm just going to attack and hopefully lean on my Unified Will here. I guess... No, I couldn't have done that without... maybe I'm supposed to Ghost Quarter myself then. Maybe we're supposed to Ghost Quarter ourselves so that I can cast a Voice of Resurgence while still leaving up Unified Will. And then only attack with these. I guess I still can only attack with these 3. And that way I leave up Bog if they're going to like... Well, they would have already snapped Cryptic. They could snap Cryptic, bounce something. If I attack with just these, then like Snapcaster alone saves them, I guess. So yeah, I guess we just attack with everything and don't worry about the Bog here. Oh no, they're just going to snap Cryptic now. Okay, so that sort of works for me. But would have been better if I cast Voice first. I'm going to have to sack my Temple Garden, which is really annoying. Yeah. Yeah, it would have been a lot. Yeah, I would have been in a better spot if I had Voice first off of Ghost Quartering myself. Anyway, I'm going to sack my Temple Garden and Bog then, which will even be more of a telltale sign from this. Could have Unified Willed this, but since I'm not sure my opponent doesn't have more interaction, I decided to take a more conservative line here and just go for the Bog, Abyss the Snapcaster, and put my opponent to a low life total. Maybe incorrect, though. Maybe I'm supposed to just go for it. Actually, you know, they're going to have the mana interact on their turn as well. I don't really like how I've played this turn at all. Because they're going to have the mana interact on their turn as well, even if they have Scapeshift. I guess if they don't have another land, they won't be able to Cryptic. I mean, I could still have just tried to counter the... Oh, yeah, that's what I'm definitely supposed to do. I don't know why I played this turn this way at all. So I'm supposed to let them Cryptic. Yeah, I could have won this turn, like almost 100%. If not just actually 100%. Yeah, I just played this very badly. Okay, so for anyone who isn't already yelling at their monitor, which is probably no one, but for anyone who isn't, I should have just let them cast their Cryptic there and Unified Willed it. I don't understand why I wouldn't have done that. They wouldn't have had, they would have had to have like a 1 mana interaction for either my spell or for my, creatures, which is both very unlikely. So that, yeah, that was atrocious. I should have definitely done that. They just cast their Cryptic command. I Unify Will their Cryptic command. I don't know why I didn't consider that to be an option. Oh well. We'll move on with our life and hopefully not lose. But if we lose this game, it's entirely my fault, and nothing else. This game was very, very winnable on that very turn. Yeah. Oh well. Oh well. Yeah, that resolves. Certainly not going to interact with that. Opponent goes up to the 8th land to ensure they can still Scapeshift us. So it looks like they're going to go for a Scapeshift here. I think I'm going to get lucky, and my opponent's obviously unlikely to have a 1 mana way to interact, and I'm still going to win this game. Oh, is it just a Bring to Light? No. Okay, there's floating 1. Makes sense. I was like, Bring to Light for 3 would be not very good, but, and again, I would be surprised for my opponent to be on Bring to Light. Oops, apparently we tapped that for green. That doesn't help us very much. But yeah, I played this game very, very badly. Fortunately, we won anyway, and also fortunately, Unified Will did its job. So I'm glad we had access to that. The Bog, we could say did its job, although I punted with it, so it's not really the case, but having the Bog there certainly gives us options, even if they're the wrong ones. Let's try to play this game a little bit better, but I think I'm going to run it back the same way here, and hopefully I won't give my opponent so many opportunities. All right, this hand again, I think, on the draw, has no interaction at all, and I'm just incredibly slow here, so, which is part of the problem when you're siding out. I did it again, dude, holy crap. Just playing this match, like, very, very badly. I didn't adjust my sideboard. So, let's talk about it real quick. What, it's just these Azusas, I guess? Because the Kitchen Finks just aren't that relevant. So I guess it's just Azusa for 2 paths. And my opponent's probably not boarding in any mid-rangey threats. So we at least go down to 1 path, if not 0. So it's like Azusa Finks. I still don't think these birds are good. So it's either Azusa Finks, or both Azusas, both Finks. It was like so focused. I do this a lot, I think, when I have a punt. It just... what's the word? Just results in additional punts very easily. I guess that aside, this hand is again particularly bad because I'm assuming this is dead or close. So we're gonna go down, and that's just my bad. This is a keep for sure. This 5 and this card is also likely a keep. I want to get to this Sigarda and just try to beat my opponent down. It's nice that it's a fetch land also, so that my knight will be a 4/4. So I think I like it for both reasons. Man, it's so hard not to be frustrated at myself for something that stupid. All right, Island, Serum Visions, and we'll see how they scry. I just get to talking about all this other stuff. Top and a top. All right. Misty, again, keeping my life total above 18 is great, but it looks like I'm not going to be able to do that anyway since I have double fetch land. So if that's the case, I just want my mana to be good, and I want this breeding pool to represent Unified Will that we don't currently have. Top is a bit of a concern, but hopefully it's not too scary. Knight of the Reliquary here might get remanded. Again, I could try to gain some life back, but I think at this point I'm just interested in having good mana in case my Hierarch dies. I'm going to want white mana. Plus I have the Sigarda, so I need double white anyway. Could just get plains there, but again, I'm just interested in my mana being good. And if I can't be above 18, it doesn't really matter. Knight does get remanded. And again, I'm an eensy bit surprised to see remand post board against the Voice of Resurgence deck, but on the play it is a lot better. So, and once they've seen Unified Will, it's also a lot better. So I can respect it. And it still fits their strategy, right? I mean, all they want is that tempo, but if we have Voice, then it's just basically dead. Yep. All right, so we're just going to slam a company now rather than slam this knight. All right. Mind Sensor and 5 lands. I mean, Mind Sensor is good in this matchup, so I'm not sad about that. I am a little sad about missing, and we've drawn a path to further embarrass me for my mistake, which is justice in a way, I think. Anger, yeah, that makes sense. So if we had a 3-drop instead, I guess our 6 was probably still a mulligan. 3 lands and 3 3-drops that don't interact is probably a mulligan against this deck. So I think we still would have gone to 5, but this being a 3-drop would obviously be better here. If we're assuming this is a Kitchen Finks or an Azusa, as it should be. I mean, pathing myself is a real thing, but not a thing I'm looking to do. Not a reason to keep it in. But it is something we could do this game and something we're going to want to watch out for if we have any information about the top of our library. So our opponent has the required number of lands to murder us. We have no good way to stop them from doing that. So I guess I should think more carefully about this knight real quick before I get too crazy here. But let's see here. So obviously the regular stuff. Ghost Quarters doesn't really do anything unless my opponent was out of basics already. Gavany, not helpful. Horizon Canopy could draw us into a Unified Will, I suppose. That doesn't necessarily sound like a winning line because I wouldn't even have the... Yeah, I guess I would exactly have the mana to cast it. My opponent could leave this in play, though. If I don't attack, they already have the lands required to kill me, right? 1, 2, 3. They could just wait to crack it on their own turn, I guess. But if they play a land drop, they don't even have to crack it, and then my Unified Will is not even good. So I think it's just attack, play another knight. Hopefully they don't have Scapeshift. We don't have any information about their hand. Just wanted to make sure that was the search. So, yeah, we're going for a knight. And hopefully we don't just flat out die. I could have tried to just sell them on Unified Will, I guess, and maybe they'd wait until they had interaction, but they leave the Sakura in play. And hopefully no shift. They don't have Bring to Light in their deck, obviously, so we have a chance here. Search into Forest, start tapping mana probably means we're dead. Alright, cool. Not dead. We did it. We did it, team. So obviously I could cast Sigarda here. It doesn't really do much for me. I think I want to represent Unified Will to the best of my ability if I can. So let's start by looking for one. Well, I could cast Company instead of attacking. That doesn't do much for me. My opponent obviously doesn't currently have the thing they need. So yeah, again, we're bashing. Putting my opponent to dead next turn if they don't do anything. There's no reason to represent Unified Will here, I think, considering my opponent has to go for it. So I'm probably supposed to just cast this Ooze. However, if they have a Remand, that lets them actually cantrip, which I don't want. I think I'm still supposed to cast this. Hopefully no Remand. If they have a Snapcaster, this is real bad, but I get to path the Snap, so it's not the end of the world. I get to use my path to win the game. That would be solid. All right, well, this just resolves and doesn't get remanded, so that's fortunate. And hopefully we don't die here. Wow, okay, so I feel like I was very lucky after both playing game 2 kind of poorly on that final couple turns where I should have just let them cast their Cryptic and then Unified Willed it, and then leaving all of these paths in is obviously an atrocity. A 3-drop wouldn't have been better here, but I feel like for what is kind of a tough matchup, and an Anger deck with a instant win button is pretty scary for us. But I'm glad we were able to get through it with a bit of luck. So I'll see you in round number 4.